Welcome back to the Pittsburgh Sports Saviors. It is Friday afternoon, 2:04 p.m., October 24th, Friday. Lee, how you been? How you doing?
Been all right. Doing all right. How about yourself, bud?
I'm doing okay. The question is, how are our Steelers doing, and how will they be doing coming in this week and looking into the future? They got a really rough stretch of games coming up here. It starts with the Packers Sunday night, and then they have Colts at home, Chargers on the road, who just destroyed Minnesota last night. I don't know if you saw that. Then Cincinnati with Flacco just coming off of a victory against the Steelers last week. Chicago Bears, a team that people are a little surprised by, probably 4-2. Then the Bills come in here 4-2. And then we'll cap it off, even though they're 1-5 with the Baltimore Ravens. You expect Lamar back by then. So I think I'm going to focus there is just this stretch ahead of us. This is probably going to be the toughest stretch of the season. 7 games in a row where we got some pretty big matchups coming on, right?
Yeah, it's going to be tough here, especially coming off of that loss to the Bengals, where Joe Flacco had only been on the team for about 10 days. And, it's like the Steelers just shit the bed. And it's like they didn't even know what was going on. They seemed to have a decent, first quarter in that game, but they were playing catch up towards the end of that game. And that's not what you can do. And if that's how they're going to play the rest of these next 7 games, and it's going to be a tough 7 games, tough 7 weeks for this team. I mean, when we talked about it earlier, about maybe this was a good thing they had their bye week a little early, but now looking at this 7 games, I don't know. Yep. It's going to be tough. You know what I mean? So they have a tough game. It's definitely going to be a revenge game for Aaron Rodgers, that Sunday night game against the Packers. But, you're talking about the Bills, who have one of the best quarterbacks in the league and one of the best teams. 2 divisional matchups with the Ravens and Bengals. It should be an easy one. But, again, those division games are the ones where it's like the Steelers seem to take their foot off the gas. You got the Colts, who are right now if the playoffs ended, they're the number 1 seed in the AFC. The Bears are, seem to have turned some things around and doing pretty well. The Chargers, they have a really decent team and a very good quarterback. So it's going to be tough with these next 7 games. The Steelers need to get back to what they were doing before that Bengals game and having games where they were causing multiple turnovers, getting multiple sacks, because they didn't do anything in that Bengals game to show that the defense was even there, And I get it, it's a short week, and I think they showed the stats that Mike Tomlin has like one of the worst records on a Thursday night game, especially against a division team, So it's going to be a tough little stretch, but hopefully, they had about 10 days off. They can get some rest and be able to watch some film and, be able to have some type of preparedness for this game Sunday night.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mini bye coming in the way that it is with 10 games. Yeah, I think this is obviously a make or break point in the season, and it'll give them an opportunity to focus in, I think, and be like, hey, we got a tough stretch. Maybe that means that like the little things, the penalties were not an issue early on, right? And then we have this one hiccup game. I can't remember what happened with the Bengals. I don't know what your memory is penalty-wise. But in general, they didn't play well defensively at all. Joe Flacco has some kind of read on what Tomlin wants to do, especially this late in his career. He's done it now twice in situations with the Colts and now with the Bengals, where he really is not meant to be the starter, comes in and plays with guys he hasn't played with a lot and just dominated in a way that not many players around the league have dominated the Steelers defense. It's a weird situation. It even adds to the weirdness with Tomlin's reaction beforehand about how like upset he was. No one's really like Joe Flacco obviously is a borderline Hall of Famer. Probably gets in, get a Super Bowl, who knows. Maybe with a late career he won't get in. At some point he was probably a Hall of Famer, now he's not. Either way, no one's worried about Joe Flacco the way that Mike Tomlin expressed his worry this week. And if there's a reason for it, you got to figure out something to get over that. You have to, because he's a limited guy. He's good at what he does, but he doesn't have much that he can still do at this age. So that is something we can put on the back burner, I guess. Maybe bring it up again in the Cincinnati game. That game's November 16th. But I think the stretch can be a time for them to definitely just focus in, play their game, and gets some wins. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the record? I think you're happy with 4-3. If you're 4-3, you end up, you go to 7-5. I think you're not like ecstatic, but I think you're going to be happy with 4-3 for this stretch.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, because this is gonna be tough games, and I can't remember exactly. Maybe I should have written it down when we did it, but I can't remember exactly where our records were at by the end of this 7-game stretch and what our even picks were, to be honest.
Well, we would have we were not as high on the Bears or the Colts for sure.
Yeah,
so we definitely didn't think of those games as being tough games. But I mean, they're tough games at this point. I would say.
it's all tough games, and I think if you come out of this 7-game stretch 4-3, you have to be positive because at least you have a winning record during these 7 games. This is going to be tough because, like you said, we didn't anticipate the Bears to be where they were. I don't think we anticipated the Colts to be where they were. We knew the Bills were. We knew that the division games were going to be where they were. We knew the Packers have a decent team, and so if you're 4-3 and you come out at the end of this stretch and you're 7-5, I mean, you're not going to be the happiest what it is, but you're going to be happy that you don't have a losing record and you didn't go 0-7 in that stretch, because that's a possibility that could happen as well, So,
yeah, 2-5 is a scary proposition. I think they can get more than 2.
Yeah.
You get 3, you get 3, you survive it. You get out of there. 3-4 makes you 7-6. I said 4 before I said 7-5, but that would have been 8-5.
For
8-5.
8-5. Yeah,
you can survive. You do still have some tough games on the stretch. I mean, you still play the Lions and the Ravens in those final 4 games. You get a little bit of a break with the Dolphins, who seem to be in complete shambles, and the Browns. Who knows who's going to be quarterback there at that point?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, maybe at that point.
But I am curious to see what's going to happen in this stretch. But I mean, it starts in Green Bay. Green Bay is a 2.5-point favorite at Pittsburgh. The total is 45.5 as of Friday, according to ESPN Bet. So they're underdogs in their home stadium on a Sunday night. I guess we could start talking a little bit about the idea that primetime Pittsburgh at home. I don't know the record offhand, but I know for a while it was great. I don't know. I'll take the Steelers on here with plus 2.5, right?
Yeah, I think you have to. I think that a lot of their pride probably got beat in that Bengals game. Going to Cincinnati, and
10 days to fix it.
Yeah, and I think that this team has for some reason, I don't know why. We've talked about it before. They take the foot off the pedal on games they should win, and they put it in hyperdrive on games they really can't win, and they end up coming and winning those games. And I again, like I said, I think this is a revenge game for Aaron Rodgers, from playing against his old team, the Packers. He said
it is not a revenge game, and he loves the people in the facility, just so you know.
He may say that, but that's not how it's going to play out. I guarantee you. But I think that they're gonna go in. I think they're pretty decent on these primetime games, Sunday night, Monday night games. I don't know what it is about Thursday night, but maybe it's just that short week that throws them off. I have no idea. But I think on Sunday night when everybody's watching them, or Monday night when everybody's watching them, they seem to kind of shine a little bit. And I think that this is a game that the Steelers are going to win. They need to win, but I think they are going to win this game just to get a little bit of momentum going into the 7-game stretch.
Yeah, it'll be nice. Here's Tomlin talking injuries and then talking a little bit about the Packers and their offense and defense.
About some injury things. Calvin Austin is scheduled to work this week. We'll let his participation and the quality of that participation be our guide in terms of his availability. As we stand here today, we're optimistic, and I know certainly he's optimistic about his ability to be included. We had some bumps and bruises associated with play, but after a long weekend of rehabilitation, I doubt any of those are significant in terms of limiting someone's availability. It may limit the availability at the top of the week. We'll have some veteran players and things of that nature that we'll minimize a little bit tomorrow. But as we lean in on this game, I don't expect any of those things to kind of be an issue. Now let's talk Green Bay. First, I'll start with their defense.
Stop there. Calvin Austin's the one real name he said there. I'm looking at the list here. He has Zach Frazier. This is Friday now. Zach Frazier is questionable with a calf, and then Scotty Miller is questionable with a calf. The rest of the list is guys on IR. So I didn't look to see, but is Calvin Austin back?
I hope so. I mean, because right now, I mean, it's DK and the tight ends. I mean, really it was DK. I mean, we only saw the tight ends really show up, a little bit more in this game with the Bengals. It was something we had talked about, and then Aaron Rodgers was able to get them and disperse the ball to them. But it really had just been DK for a little bit, of his targets that he was throwing to, and so I hope to see him back. Because no one else has stepped up in that wide receiver room right now. And that's a big thing that we've talked about over the past couple of years with this team, that the wide receiver room is something that they need to work on. And hopefully he's back. So that way, Aaron Rodgers does have another target to throw to.
Yeah. So he was a full participant on Wednesday, and he has no injury designation. So he's back. He'll be out there. It'll be curious to see if they give him back punt duties right away or if they wait a little bit. But yeah, Calvin Austin's back for
right.
Sunday Night Football.
All
It's
right.
a good sign.
Right. Yes, it is.
Good thing to see happen there. I think he goes defense first. So let's hear a little bit of Tomlin on the defense, the Packers.
Got a lot of respect for Jeff Hafley and the work he's doing over there with those guys. They're fundamentally sound. They don't give up big plays. I think they're third in the league in explosion run plays and first in the league in explosion pass plays. And so largely collectively with both, they're certainly number one. They keep the ball inside and in front. They set good edges. They reduce the amount of grass that they have to play in. And in doing so, man, they make offenses operate in an effort to score on them. And so, you gotta be clean. You gotta execute for blocks of plays at a time. You gotta execute situational plays. You got to play penalty free. I think when you don't give up big plays, man, it creates all of those obstacles for an offensive unit, and they're certainly doing that and doing it at a high level. They've invested a lot in their edge people up front, and I think they've reaped the rewards of it. Man, they play behind that rush. Michael Parsons, can't say enough about him and his talents. You saw just the other day what he's capable of doing, and I think that's really indicative of the impact that a guy like him has. You better stay out of one-dimensional circumstances. You better stay on schedule. And in doing so, man, you really limit situations where he has an opportunity to take over. Arizona was in that game, but they had to take some risks there toward the end in an effort to pursue victory. They got somewhat one-dimensional, and guys like him, when you get in one-dimensional passing circumstances, they got an opportunity to really control the game, and he shut the game down with 2 really big sacks. And so we got our hands full, but not only with him, with Gary, with Van Ness. They got a lot of talent. They've invested a lot of talent and resources in that position up front, man. And they got a real good secondary.
Stop there, I guess. Michael Parsons, the big name here. They were able to stop Myles Garrett for the most part a couple weeks ago. But Garrett and Micah Parsons are pretty much like the two ends of the spectrum when it comes to types of pass rushers you're going to get, I think, between the size differences and everything. Obviously, Garrett's a complete monster, so he still has speed and everything, but Parsons definitely plays a little different than what Garrett plays. But yeah, big guy up front to look at. What are your thoughts so far on what he said about the Packers?
Yeah, he's Micah Parsons is definitely one of the best, probably top 5, top 3 defensive players in the league right now. And very talented player, and it's going to be a struggle playing against him. Like you had said, the Steelers were able to, put a hold on Myles Garrett in that Browns game. But like you said, Micah Parsons plays not only just a different position, but a different style of play. So, it's going to be different as, he's an edge rusher like TJ. So, hopefully that the line is able to hold them. But the Packers do have a very, pretty decent defense. I think that this is going to be maybe just a little bit of a struggle, for our offense to be able to get moving. It's not a division game. It's a out of conference game for sure. And hopefully, there's been some, of course there's been some battles with the Steelers and Packers in the past, especially, there's that loss that always stings me in that Super Bowl that we had against them,
Yeah.
but Aaron Rodgers was on a team and now he's on ours. So, it's a little bit different, but
Uh-huh.
it's going to be a different environment, a different game. Of course, we're here at home. We have the home field advantage. We just can't, be able to give up any sacks to this Packers defense. We have to be able to protect Aaron Rodgers, and the guys are going to have to be able to hold that line so that way they're able to run the ball a little bit, because that Bengals game, it was almost like that Seattle game, and it was like they couldn't do anything. People were getting injured, couldn't run the ball, couldn't throw the ball, and then it was like then at the end you're trying to play catch up and you just can't do it, and you just got to hope that this game does not get to that type of environment in the game. You got to take the lead and you got to keep your foot on the gas. You can't let go. You have to continue to pound these guys, and got to just hope that the offensive line is able to hold that defensive line.
Yeah, they just really haven't found like an even ground where they're just steady yet. It's either the highs or the lows so far, but I think this stretch is where they need to figure it out and find an identity.
Yeah, I mean, if they can win a good bit of these games, they got to let the league know that they're still, they're not a liability to this league, that they are still a contender in this league and one of the top teams in the league. They have to come out and do something, and they have to show the league like, oh shit, like, these guys really play. Like, okay, we can't take them, they're not a joke anymore. We got to take them a little bit more serious. So they have to figure something out. They have to find that identity. Like you said, they have to figure something out.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, man, they play well as a collective. They communicate well. They minimize big plays. Quay in the inside up front is a hub of communication. He's been in the league now for a number of years. He's an all situations linebacker. He's good versus the run. He's good versus the pass. He's a good blitzer. His blitz skills were on display last week against Arizona. I think he had 2 sacks in that game. The running back pickup component, excuse me, of blitz is going to be really significant if we want to, win those situational moments. Looking at Green Bay's offense, it starts with Josh Jacobs. And not only because of the circumstances that we're in, coming off of a subpar performance in terms of stopping the run, but he's just a catalyst for a lot that goes on with them. He's a nuts and bolts player, man. He's really good. He's got a great run demeanor. His pile almost always falls the right way from his perspective. We've been familiar with him. We played against him recently when he was in Vegas. He has just been a big-time acquisition for them. I think he's got 23 rushing touchdowns since they acquired him last year, and that's just a staggering number, but it speaks to, his involvement in what it is that they do. He's obviously the central component of their run game, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention his passing game exploits as well. His screen game, his ability to turn short to long in the check down game is really impressive, and so he certainly has our attention. Jordan Love and his talents and the way that he spreads the ball around to a variety of people, his ability to extend plays, his mobility, all the things that certainly has our attention. We played him in 23, and so we're somewhat physically familiar with that skill set, but we still got to make plays. His talents really thin you out schematically. His willingness and his ability to spread the ball around to a lot of people. Tucker at tight end is really significant. He gets down the field. They throw him tight end screens. He's big in their misdirection passing game. He's just a force within their offensive system. They got a young rookie, Golden, out of Texas, that's increasing his participation with each passing week, and his talents are starting to show. I think Watson's been practicing, and so they may get Watson back this week. They got Dobbs. They got a complete repertoire of people to spread the ball around to, and they got a solid running game. And so certainly, man, we got a big week ahead of us from a prep standpoint.
So there's Tomlin on the offense there. Yeah, I think he's right. They got a lot of pieces. I don't know if they don't have that Devontae Adams that they've had in the past, but they got a good group of receivers, good tight end. It's just a very balanced offense, I think.
Yeah, like you said, balanced. Jordan Love's a very talented quarterback. Josh Jacobs is a very talented running back, which, we got to hope that the Steelers is, defense, the run defense is able to stop him because he's able to make plays and get out to the open and make some long plays and score some touchdowns easily. So hopefully, they can stop him. And they have a nice group of wide receivers that are able to make some plays as well. We just got to hope that our secondary, is able to hold them. We got to hope that Joey Porter Jr. is able to, guard whoever he's guarding. Jalen Ramsey cannot get beat like he got beat. I mean, I know that I'm forgetting his name, Chase.
Jamar Chase,
yeah, Jamar Chase. I know he's a top 3 receiver in the league right now, but you can't just give up almost what I think he gave up like 18 receptions to Jamar Chase in that game against the Bengals. You can't do that to whoever. You can't give up that many targets to a wide receiver and let them catch it on you and score a couple of touchdowns. So they're gonna have to get out there and stop these guys. I mean, they got to get to Jordan Love with the sacks and rushing the quarterback. They got to be able to stop the run and they got to be able to have a great pass defense, because if they don't, then this game could get ugly really quick.
This is more. This is not about Ramsey more the other guys like Slay and everything like that.
Yeah,
I think they're going to start taking people's names and reps out of the equation and make sure they're playing the top guys. There's a couple guys haven't got time, like Corey Trice and stuff like that maybe deserve a little more reps to see if that gives them a spark if they do fall behind a little bit this week. I don't know where your head's at, but it's a very, very important game in my eyes to win this one. Just because you're coming off of a 10-day break, coming off a bad loss to a team you should have beat. I really do think this will say a lot about how the season goes this game here, even though it's a difference between 5-2 and 4-3. It's not that big of a deal this early, but for me, this is going to be a big game for me, I think.
I agree with you. I mean, I don't know what happened in that Bengals game. They go down and score a touchdown on, I think it was their opening drive. And they had like a decent first quarter, in that game. And then it was almost like they just didn't know what was going on. They reverted back to not being able to stop the run, not being able to stop the pass. Joe Flacco, I mean, like you said, a couple weeks ago, he's a, veteran quarterback who has played this team multiple times. And it's like, he just kind of knows what to do, against the Steelers. And it's like Mike Tomlin can't figure out a way to stop him. The guy's 40 years old. I mean, I get that, he's a veteran, but he shouldn't be able to move and make plays and do all that stuff the way he did and torched us the way he did, And so
that first down and run, I forgot all about it.
Yeah.
Completely took it out of my head.
Yeah. It's like, so hopefully, I mean, Jordan Love's a lot younger. That team's a lot younger against the Packers, and they have to win this game. If they don't win this game, then they're putting 4-3, and it's going to be a long stretch. And you got to hope that they at least have some type of winning record in this 7-game stretch. I mean, you got to be able to keep the momentum in the division in the AFC to be able to give yourself a chance to make the playoffs. And so I think I agree with you. I think it starts with this game against the Packers at home on Sunday night. I think they have to win this game in order to keep some type of momentum in the AFC.
Yeah, and this is the number 1 seed in the NFC at the moment, right? They're 4-1-1. Everyone else is like 5-2. So they're the number 1 seed. This isn't going to be easy, but they got to figure out a way, and I think they do. I'm going to give them a 3-point win. Make it in the teens. I don't know. Pick 2 numbers for me that are 3 points apart. That's the final score for me.
18-15.
18-15 Steelers. All right. What's your prediction?
I'm gonna take a 3-point win as well, but I'm gonna go a little bit higher. I'm gonna say the final score will be 27-24 Steelers over the Packers.
Okay. We'll do MVPs at the very end, but do want to go segue a little bit to the Hall of Fame semifinal list came out. I don't think that's the official. It's the candidates for the Hall this year. 3 local Steeler names, 3 Steeler names, then a couple local names I want to go over. I'll go local first. Larry Fitzgerald, first-time guy. LaShawn McCoy, pick guy also. He's his first time out here. So those are 2 names that hopefully can get in at some point. I think Larry Fitzgerald's a lock this year. We can talk about that a little bit when we get into Hines Ward. who's the first Steeler name that I want to talk about. And then the second one I want to get really into is James Harrison. And then finally, Marquise Pouncey is a first-time finalist. So those are 5 names with some local ties. What are your thoughts? We talked about this a little last year with Harrison and Hines. I think the Hines one's more it's more clear in my eyes what's going to happen over time. But what are your thoughts on Harrison first? Where are you at with Harrison?
I mean, I think that Harrison.
Of note, so the other linebackers are London Fletcher, James Harrison, Luke Kuechly, and Terrell Suggs. Suggs and Kuechly were both finalists last year, so they were put above Harrison last year. So of the 4 that are named linebackers, Harrison has 2 guys who've already gone a step further than he has in the process.
So, Harrison is one of those guys. He was undrafted. He bounced around the teams at the beginning of his career, and then he was with the Steelers for a long time. And then at the end of his career, he left. But while he was with the Steelers, I think he had a very good career with this team. He was a very talented player, one of the best. I think one of the best linebackers I've ever seen play the game.
His Hall of Fame peak is obvious. Hall of Fame peak.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the greatest players of all time peaks.
Yeah. I just don't think that, maybe this is the year yet for him. I mean, you got, like you said, Luke Kuechly was a very talented linebacker. Terrell Suggs is another guy that I think that, when the fans look at some of these guys, they may put them above him. But, I don't think there's any doubt that in the future, in the next maybe few years or so, James Harrison definitely is inducted and becomes a finalist to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I just don't think it's the right time yet.
Yeah, those are 2 interesting names to go up against Harrison too. If you're looking at, because Kuechly had a short career too because of injuries and concussions and stuff. Suggs was around longer, but I don't know. I think Harrison's peak is higher than Suggs' peak.
Yeah,
I think, but yeah, Suggs just did a lot longer, a lot more consistent. It's not like Harrison had a short run either. He had a pretty strong run. I think he ended up with like 84 sacks. I want to say
something like that. I think. Yeah.
Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, I think it was 84 is where he ended up, which is not something that that's not with like the top guys ever,
Yeah.
But I think how good he was. Yeah, 84 and a half sacks. So there's a lot of guys like around 100 sacks and things like that he can't compare to. But I think you're right to say this year is not happening. I don't know if you even said that. I kind of put words in your mouth. But yeah, I don't think this year happens.
No, I don't think it does either.
And going over to Hines Ward, he's like the inverse situation of Harrison, where his longevity, he never had that peak the way Harrison had. And he's got 3 guys that were finalists last year, and Torrey Holt, Steve Smith Sr., which I think Hines is pretty close to him, and Reggie Wayne. Holt and Wayne, I think you got to put above Ward for sure. And then the new name this year being Larry Fitzgerald, I think really hurts his shot to make it this year. The path for Hines Ward is going to be sitting around, and then finally, boom, oh, wait, this guy definitely needs to be in. There's going to have to be something where people recognize how great he is by like the intangibles of him. And it's going to take guys like Reggie Wayne and Torrey Holt and Larry Fitzgerald to get out of the way. So you're not comparing them statistically. And it's more about what Hines did for this team. Super Bowl MVP, one of the is he all time?
Yeah, he's like, I want to say he's like 5th in like maybe receptions or even yards somewhere up there. He's up there in
postseason,
like the top. Maybe I don't know about postseason, but in like
I'm talking postseason.
Postseason.
No. Hines isn't that far up there. Larry Fitzgerald's like 3. I don't know did I say the wrong name?
Oh, I thought you said regular season. I didn't know you said postseason. That's my fault.
No. I just Hines isn't there, right? Hines doesn't have the numbers like that. In the regular season. No, he doesn't have them. That's the problem. He's not like top 5 or anything like that.
No.
He's had 1,000 receptions, 12,000 yards, and 85 touchdowns. Very, very good numbers. But I think you have to take into the playoffs. He's got great playoff numbers. I think at least at one point he was like top in receptions,
Mhm.
receiving, or in playoff history. He played 217 games. It's a lot of years, multiple 1,000-yard seasons. He just not really. He didn't get many accolades other than some Pro Bowls. So it's going to take him a while, but I think at some point people are going to recognize it. It's something that he's the guy you can't tell the story of football without what he's done.
For sure.
For the playoffs, what he's done as a blocker, just the intangibles on him, I think finally get him in. Maybe people need to say people don't remember how Hines Ward be kind of videos and start making them for him. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I talked a lot there. What are your thoughts on Hines?
So, I've always thought that Hines Ward should have, been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago, but Hines Ward has always had to go into a class with wide receivers that are just been better than him. Not saying he's one of the worst wide receivers ever. I think he's been one of the best wide receivers ever played the game. Been one of my favorite players. Is my favorite player that ever played the game of football. But he's had to go up against some of these other very bigger name, talented, wide receivers that made bigger splash plays, a lot more touchdowns, a lot more receptions, a lot more yards, had better postseason runs where, he has to go up against, and it's harder for him.
And I mean, they backlogged it so bad for the position because not letting like T.O. in and Chris Carter in for all this time. Like, it really screwed over guys that they would praise more than they would. The problems they had with Carter and Owens and everyone like that are things that they love about people like Hines, people like Torrey Holt. So they kind of like screwed themselves by being petty with those guys.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Hines Ward changed the game. And I'm not saying that wide receivers never blocked before, but when you think of blocking wide receivers, you think of Hines Ward. I mean, I think he changed the way it comes to blocking for wide receivers. And now you see a lot of these guys out there doing it. He always caught the ball. He was a smile on his face. He was out there. He was tough. He would make some big hits, with blocking and, crackbacks and things like that. Get right back up after he was hit. Taking a catch over the middle of the field and had a smile on his face. He was ready to go. And he made some big splash plays. And, he got, like you said, a Super Bowl MVP. He has 2 Super Bowls. And, but he just wasn't the big name that, you're used to, like a Randy Moss, Terrell Owens, Jerry Rice, things like that. And, but, it's going to be, I think, like you said, I agree with you. I think it's going to be a lot longer for him to get into the Hall of Fame than it would be like a James Harrison. I think that by the end of it, he'll be in after James Harrison, even though I think that he's, when it comes to putting them on a list, I think Hines Ward's a better player than James Harrison. But again, those are 2 different positions and 2 different names, So, I think that it's going to be a lot tougher and it's going to be a lot longer wait for him to get into the Hall of Fame. But he's definitely a Hall of Famer in my eyes. He'll get there one day. I just hope it's soon. I just hope it's not too long for where, a lot of people forget his name.
Yeah, it's a stupid, silly standard that I'm making in my head about like the if you're writing the book on the NFL, I think you want Hines Ward in that book. And that's like the comparison I'm making with the Hall of Fame is like, it's supposed to be a museum of the greatest players and everything of the NFL. And I think that you can't tell that story without Hines. You brought it up, the blocks, you brought up all the other the smiling things. I mean, if you want to keep spinning stuff, the Asian heritage, there's a lot you can put into play there with Hines that is he's probably my favorite player of all time, especially as a kid.
Yeah.
So
if they ever do like one of those, what is NFL Network does, the life of players, a football life. Maybe if they do one of him, people will see it and be like, "Oh, I forgot about Hines Ward," And
I bet
talk about
already,
it. They might. I don't know. I'm not sure. And but maybe if something was brought back out and people saw like, oh yeah, some of his highlights get re-shown, on social media and things like that, or I just think I love the guy. He was one of my favorite players growing up, if not my favorite player of all time, for sure. I agree with you on that. I just hope that it just doesn't take longer for him to get into the Hall of Fame, because he deserves it. He should have been there, a long time ago. It just, like you said, the way the NFL backlogs, all this stuff, it just takes time and things like that. So, hopefully, he can get the credit he deserves, because he is one of the best wide receivers ever to play the game. I remember when I was little, they used to have this thing on NFL Network. It was like, I think the show was called Wide Receivers Wide Open. It was one of my favorite things I used to watch all the time. And they had him on there with like T.O., Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, things like that. And, and they talked about it. And they all had their own little segment. And I loved watching his segment, how he was out there. And so, hopefully, he gets in there soon. He deserves it, like I said, but again, the NFL is very weird when it comes to the way they do things. So it'll be a while, but hopefully soon he's in there.
Yeah, I agree with you. Trying to move on. We both have the Steelers winning this week. What do you have as your MVP in offense and defense?
Yeah, I think some guys need to step up for sure. I'm going to go on defense, I'm going to say TJ Watt. He's only had that one game. I think it was with the Vikings where he had the 2 sacks. I think that was the game he did it. And he's going to need another bigger game. He's going to need to step up. I'm going to take him as my defensive MVP of this game. Offense, I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers. He may not say it's a revenge game. He may love the people of Wisconsin and things like that, of Green Bay. He can say he's a character when he's in front of the camera, so he can do whatever he wants. But I think it's going to be a revenge game for him, and I think that he's gonna come out there and show Green Bay, well, you shouldn't have let me go, things like that, So I think that he's gonna be my offensive player of the game, and I'm gonna go with TJ as my defense player of the game.
So I'll go Herbig on defense. His snaps were a lot more limited than we would expect, I think, last week. So I think he's gonna come out and make a splash. And then offense, I'll go Jaylen Warren. He's been pretty consistent, and I think that's the way to go. And I'm just being different because I was going to say Rodgers if you didn't say Rodgers. But that's all I got for this week, Lee.
Yeah.
Basketball starting back up. Who you got for the NBA Finals? Right now, 5 seconds. 5
seconds.
3. 2,
I'm going to take
1.
OKC.
Oh, you feel? No, I don't care. I don't care anymore. Go ahead.
I'm going to go OKC and the Knicks right now as my picks. I think that the OKC is going to get back, and I'm going to take the Knicks. I think they're going to be a dark horse sleeper. I mean, they did pretty well, made it to the Eastern Conference finals last year. I think that they're going to get over the hump and make it to the finals this year. Not saying they're going to win. I'm not picking the winner. I just think those are going to be my 2 contenders for the NBA Finals right now.
I'll go Denver.
Ooh, who are they playing?
No one.
Oh.